अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, क्या हाल चाल है आप लोगों के? दिस मॉक वाज ईजियर देन यस्टरडेज। चलें, अच्छी बात है। अच्छी बात है if you guys found this mock easy. अच्छा guys, just give me a few minutes, हम अभी डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करते हैं। Sorry I'm late already, but just need 2 more minutes. Okay, now at 6 या पता नहीं 5:30 inshallah I'm doing a stream on functions then integration, or maybe a different order, ठीक है, but I plan on doing function today as well as integration, ठीक है। अच्छा, so let's begin. Before I start, I would appreciate if you guys like the stream if you haven't done that yet, and also please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that either, ठीक है। And on that note, let us now begin, ठीक है। Okay, so the first question involving discriminant, something that you can expect in paper 1, in non-calculator paper. Acha, what does the question say? Let's have a look. The curve y equals to so-and-so intersects the line y equals to so-and-so at 2 distinct points. Find the possible values of k. Okay, so intersects at 2 distinct points. Distinct points basically means b square minus 4ac will be greater than 0. Okay? Acha guys, just 1 more minute. Okay, now, so 2 distinct points का मतलब b square minus 4ac will be greater than 0, सही है। But before we do anything, we have to first substitute the equation of the line into the equation of the curve. Let's see what happens when we do that. So we get k plus 4x, ठीक है। So this whole thing now becomes the coefficient of x, which is equal to 2x square plus k plus 4. Now let's shift all the terms to the right hand side. Let's see what happens. So you have 2x square minus bracket open k plus 4 x, ठीक है। Okay, and then you have plus k plus 4 equals to 0, सही है। Okay, now b square minus 4ac will be greater than 0. Now what is a? A is 2. What is b? Technically b is minus k plus 4, but this minus sign becomes irrelevant because we will square it. And what is c equal to? C is also equal to k plus 4. ठीक है? So b square minus 4ac is greater than 0. b square means b square minus 4 times 2 times c, which is k plus 4, and this is greater than 0, ठीक है। Okay, now, so let's expand k plus 4 the whole thing square. What's that equal to? That's equal to k square plus 8k plus 16 minus 8k minus 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 4 is 32, is greater than 0. ठीक है, let's just double check. Remember the 3 to 1 rule, 3 lines of working, pause for 2 seconds, review your work once, ठीक है। अच्छा, any क्या लिखा हुआ है? Are we allowed to use vectors in circle questions? Yeah, of course. Vectors is part of your syllabus, so you're allowed to use that. Just make sure that your working is clear. If your working is not clear, then obviously you're not going to get marks. But as long as your working is clear, that's fine. So minus 8k, minus 32, that looks good. K square plus 8k plus 16, that also looks good. So what happens is that plus 8k minus 8k gets cancelled. We have k square minus 16, which is greater than 0. Okay, now for a second, let's assume that this is equals to 0 so that we can solve the quadratic equation. So k and find the critical values. So k is equals to plus minus 4. Now remember, you're not solving a quadratic equation, you're solving a quadratic inequality. So we have ourselves a quadratic curve which cuts the x-axis at two important points. One of them is 4 and the other is minus 4. Now what's the range of k that we want? We want the range of k where the entire expression is greater than 0. That means we want the part of the curve that's above the x-axis. So that means k will be greater than 4, okay, and k will be less than minus 4. This is our final answer. Okay, just a minute, guys. Okay, now, question number 2. The diagram shows the graph y equals to f of x, where f of x is a cubic polynomial. All right. I should probably remove my print message. Okay, now, find f of x, giving your answer as a product of linear factors. Okay. So first of all, look at the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are minus 5, minus 1, and 2. Okay? So that means we have x plus 5. Okay? And then we have x plus 1. So we're just going back from we're just working our way backwards from the x-intercepts. And then we have x minus 2. Okay? Why? Because the x-intercepts, as you guys can see, are minus 5, minus 1 and 2. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now this is y equals to, and then we always put a k. Now, in order to find out the value of k, we need a point through which the curve is passing other than the x-intercept. So we're going to go with 0, 5. So that means we're going to plug in 5 in place of y, and we're going to plug in 0 in place of x. So 0 plus 5, what's that equal to? That's equal to 5. 0 plus 1, what's that equal to? That's equal to 1. Okay? And then 0 minus 2, what's that equal to? That's equal to minus 2. So k ki value aa jayegi, after you do a bit of simplification, k is equals to minus 1 upon 2. So k equals minus 1 upon 2, which means now the entire equation looks like this. And no need to expand, because notice the question says that write your answer as a product of its linear factors. Why it is less than minus 4? because this part of the curve is on the left hand side of -4, which means the value of k will be less than -4, and it's on the right hand side of +4, which means it will be greater than 4. Okay? Okay, now write down the values of x such that f of x is less than 0. So again, identify the part of the curve which is less than 0, and that's this part and this part. So for the first part, the range of x will be greater than -5 and less than -1. Okay? And then for the next part, it's going to be greater than 2. Okay? Do not use the word and, always write comma. Okay? Solve the inequality. So once again, we have modulus on both sides. So the best method to do such questions is that you plug in. No, wait. You square both sides. So we're going to square both sides. I think we had a similar question yesterday also. So when we square both sides, here's what we get. This is going to be 25x squared plus 5 times 4, that's 20. 20 times 2 is 40x, plus 16 is lesser than or equal to 4x squared. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12, minus 12x, plus 9. Now let's shift all the terms to the left hand side. So we have 21x squared. So shouldn't it be minus x minus 2? No, why would it be minus x minus 2? It's x minus 2. Okay, I've kept the minus sign here. So it's not going to be minus x minus 2. That makes no sense. Okay, so 21x squared, then 40 plus 12, what's that equal to? That's equal to 52x. I say yeah. And then 16 minus 9, what's that equal to? That's equal to 7. Achha, can we simplify this? I don't think that we can simplify this, so we'll have to do middle term breaking as it is. So 21 times 7, what's that equal to? 21 times 7 is equal to 147. Okay, 20 times 7 is 140. Yeah, 147. So factors of 147 that leave you with 52. Let's do some trial and error. I think we can divide 147 by 3. ठीक है, sum हमें क्या चाहिए? Sum हमें चाहिए 52 का. ठीक है. So 147 को अगर हम 3 से divide करें, can we divide by 3? Yeah, we can. So 3 times 3 4s are 12. 2 carry. 49. 3 into 49, yeah, that gets the job done. 3 plus 49 is equals to 52. Okay. So yeah, I've done that. So do you think these questions are relatively easy compared to past papers of recent years? I don't think they're relatively easy. I don't think they're relatively difficult also. I think they're about the same level. Okay, so I did not deliberately make the paper extremely easy or made the paper extremely difficult. Okay, I just tried to make it as relevant as possible. So plus 3x plus 49x plus 7 is lesser than or equal to 0. Okay. Now let's take 3 along with x common. If I take 3 along with x common, we have 7x plus 1. Then let's take 7 common. So if I take 7 common, we once again have 7x plus 1, which is lesser than or equal to 0. Now this means that x is equals to minus 1 upon 7. And x is equals to minus 7 upon 3. Now remember, we have found what? We have found the critical values. Okay? अब इसमें से which value is the smaller value? Minus 7 upon 3 is smaller. So here we have minus 7 upon 3, and then we have minus 1 upon 7. Okay? Now remember, we're not solving a quadratic equation. We were solving a quadratic inequality. Now we want the lesser than or equal to 0 region. So that means we're going to choose this one. So x is greater than or equal to minus 7 upon 3. Okay, and lesser than or equal to minus 1 upon 7. There we go. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now question number 4. The function f is defined by so-and-so given that the minimum value of x squared plus 2x minus 3 occurs when x equals to minus 1. Explain why f of x has an inverse. So what's the condition for a function to have an inverse? There's just one main condition. And that is it should be a one-to-one function. Okay? So reason is that f of x... Achha, ab naturally to a quadratic function is not a one-to-one function. But given the domain, okay, given the domain, that x is greater than or equal to minus 1 is a one-to-one function. Okay, naturally a quadratic function is not a one-to-one function, it is a many-to-one function. Okay, so given the domain it is a one-to-one function. ठीक है, so ये बात सबको पता होनी चाहिए that naturally a quadratic function is not a one-to-one function. But let's suppose this function has its minimum value at minus 1 according to the question says. That means when x equals to minus 1, this curve is that is basically the x coordinate of the curve's turning point. ठीक है, when x equals to minus 1, that is basically the turning point of this curve. ठीक है, अच्छा, अब सवाल ने क्या किया? The question has altered the domain. That means you're not really looking at the entire thing, you're only looking at this part of the function. So if someone sees only this part of a certain function, this would seem as what? This would seem as a one-to-one function. So that is why you don't say that f of x is a one-to-one function. No, if you say that, you're wrong. You have to mention that for the given domain is a one-to-one function. ठीक है, vertical line test. Vertical line test. Hello, let me see from the marking scheme. Okay, vertical line test allowed hai ya nahi? It is. I don't see vertical line test in the marking scheme. I don't see that, so I will not recommend. ठीक है, use one-to-one, many-to-one, not vertical line test. ठीक है, stream on kinematics. देखो kinematics mostly P2 में आता है. ठीक है, mostly. Now I'm not giving a prediction, I'm not saying कि it's not going to be tested in paper 1, but most of the questions of kinematics that I have seen are the ones where you need a calculator. तो कल हमारे पास एक दिन है, कल हम syllabus run through के साथ कोई एक topic और include कर सकते हैं. So if you guys want to do kinematics, I can do kinematics. This was harder than कल वाला paper. चलो ठीक है. On the axes below, sketch the graph of y equals to f of x and the graph of y equals to f inverse of x. Okay, अच्छा, अब curve ने हमें काफ़ी important चीज़ें दे दी हैं. And notice the question says label each graph and state the intercept on the coordinate axes. That means the question is only interested in the x and the y intercept. ठीक है? Okay, now, so if I look at f of x we just saw has its minimum value at minus 1. अच्छा, अब मेरा आप लोगों को मशवरा ये है कि जब आप स्केच भी बना रहे हो ना, तब भी try and be as accurate as possible. ठीक है, especially when you have to draw the inverse also, because if you don't mark accurately and you have to draw the inverse, then the two functions will not look like mirror images of one another. They will not look like as if they are reflection of one another along the y-axis. ठीक है, अच्छा, अब if I look at f of x has minimum point when x equals to minus 1, and let's work that out also. So minus 1 squared is 1. 1 plus minus 2, that's minus 1. Minus 1 minus 3, that's equal to minus 4. So that means when x is minus 1, y is minus 4. ठीक है, and the y-intercept is minus 3, can be seen from the equation itself that the y-intercept is minus 3. Acha, what about the x-intercept? How will I find out the x-intercept? So for the x-intercept, simply equate this to 0. So x squared plus 2x minus 3, let's equate this to 0. So you have x squared plus 3x minus 3 equals to 0. Let's take x common. So we have x plus 3 inside the bracket. Okay, then let's take minus 1 common, so we have x plus 3 inside the bracket. So it can be seen that one x-intercept is equals to 1, the other is minus 3. Obviously the one that we're interested in is the one which is greater than or equal to minus 1. So that means this is the point where the curve cuts the x-axis. So that's it, ये हमारा curve बन गया. ठीक हो गया? There we go. Okay, now we have to draw the inverse. So the question said label as well. So this is f of x. Now we have to draw f inverse of x. So minus 1 minus 4 will now become, what happens when you reflect it along the line y equals to x? It will now become minus 4 and minus 1. ठीक है? अच्छा, I'll upload the solution and I'll upload the solution of this paper. ठीक है? And then we have minus 3 comma 0, which will become 0 comma 3, and then we have 1 comma 0, which will become 0 comma 1. So that means this is what the इनवर्स will look like. ठीक है, अब बनाने के बाद आपने ज़रा जज भी करना है कि do these two actually look like a reflection along the line y equals to x? Yes, they do. Okay, so that means this is the graph of f inverse of x. Okay, now remember what happens in f and f inverse is that the x values become basically the graph is reflected along the line y equals to x. ठीक है, the graph is reflected along the line y equals to x. अच्छा, the question says on the sketch the graph. ठीक है, अच्छा मैं आप लोगों को इसके मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बता देता हूँ. ठीक है, I'll tell you. No, you can't draw the whole graph because the question says that x is greater than or equal to 1. If you draw the entire graph, I'm afraid you're not going to get full marks. ठीक है, so 1 mark you get for drawing f of x only for x is greater than or equal to -1. ठीक है, then 1 mark you get for 1 as the x-intercept and -3 as the y-intercept. ठीक है, so pay attention guys. I'll repeat from the beginning. 1 mark for drawing f of x for greater than or equal to -1. ठीक है, 1 mark for the x-intercept and the same 1 mark. ठीक है, इसी 1 mark में आपको y-intercept भी दिखाना है. Then another mark you get for correctly drawing the graph of f inverse of x. ठीक है, you don't have to draw the line y equals to x. ठीक है, not necessary, but it should be implied that the two are reflection of one another. ठीक है, you don't have to draw the line y equals to x. ठीक है, and then 1 mark, the fourth and the final mark you get for the intercepts of the f inverse. So 1 mark for f of x, 1 mark for the intercepts of f of x, 1 mark for f inverse, and 1 mark for the intercepts of f inverse of x. You do not have to draw the line y equals to x. ठीक है, आई होप we're clear. You can't draw the full graph बेटा. ये क्यों दिया हुआ है उसने आपको जब f of x का डोमेन दिया हुआ है तो ये क्यों दिया हुआ है? What do you mean we can't draw the full graph? ठीक है, so instead of arguing, make sure you understand कि why we can't do what you're saying. So look at the domain. All right, now question number 5. Question number 5 is an identity question. This part of trigonometry is something that can very well be tested in a non-calculator paper. What does many to one exactly mean? Many to one basically means that many x values give you the same y value, like a quadratic function, like a cubic function, like a trigonometric function, where there are multiple x values giving the same y value. Okay? Show that sin x tan x upon 1 minus cos x can be written as 1 plus sec x. अब देखो 1 plus sec x लिखने को बोल रहा है, ठीक है, लेकिन आप थोड़ा सा plan ahead. 1 plus sec x basically means that this is what you should be aiming for. Okay, this does not mean that you start working on the right hand side. No, a lot of people think, you know, it's forbidden to touch the right hand side, or if you do that, you know, you probably get arrested or something. No, you can work on the right hand side, but not as your official working, just for the sake of planning, so that you can anticipate, okay, what should we bring the left hand side equal to. So we can't bring it directly equal to sec. We know that sec is equals to 1 upon cos. So this is what we're aiming for. We're aiming to bring the left hand side equal to 1 plus 1 upon cos, so that 1 upon cos can be turned into sec. That's it. Okay? So sin x, tan x can be written as sin x upon cos x. And as far as 1 upon cos x is concerned, we'll let that be as it is. Okay, now what can I do about the numerator? The numerator can become sin square x upon cos x divided by 1 minus cos x, which means sin square x upon cos x, ठीक है, into 1 minus cos x. Okay, when we change from division to multiplication, this is what happens, correct? Do we have to show intersection of graphs? Yes, you do. Okay, because there's no other way that you can draw them without intersecting. There's no other way that you can draw them without intersecting. Okay, now where do we stand? We stand at sin square x over cos x minus cos square x. ठीक है, अच्छा, अब हम क्या कर सकते हैं? Remember, this is what we're aiming for. Okay, what we're aiming for is this. We're aiming for 1 plus sec x, which basically means 1 plus 1 upon cos x. Now notice that here we have sin square x and we have cos square x. So how about we turn everything in terms of cos square x? Okay, in order to simplify, we have to make sure that everything is written as one single trigonometric function. Okay, अच्छा denominator में हम एक काम करते हैं, let's take cos x common. 1 minus cos x. Okay, so I multiplied, but then I decided to take cos x common. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, trial and error. Okay, अगर हमने expand कर भी दिया तो कोई बात नहीं, take common again, no big deal. Now, a lot of people at this point would think really hard for a trigonometric identity. But there is no trigonometric identity to be applied over here. There is an algebraic identity. And what is that algebraic identity? That algebraic identity is basically a square minus b square is equal to a plus b into a minus b. Okay, this is the naughty hidden identity. Because you would be thinking really hard about a trigonometric identity to be applied here, but there isn't one. There is, however, an algebraic identity to be applied over here. Okay, so that's why I always I call this a naughty algebraic identity. क्योंकि आके छुप जाती है, मैं पता भी नहीं चलता. So this is what we end up with. ठीक है. Now notice what this becomes. This becomes 1 plus cos x upon cos x. Okay, which can be written as 1 upon cos x plus cos x upon cos x. Okay, so what's cos x upon cos x equal to? That's equal to 1. And what is 1 upon cos x equal to? That's equal to sec x. So sec x plus 1, there you go, hence proved. Okay, for good measure, instead of writing it as sec x plus 1, write it as 1 plus sec x, since that's what the question wanted. And then you can say hence shown. Okay. अब ये statement, क्या ये statement लिखना ज़रूरी है? No. But should you write it? Yes, for good measure. Okay. So that we can tell the examiner, we can close on a good note. Okay? And it's a feel-good moment when you write hence shown. Okay? It makes you feel accomplished. Okay? You were given a task and you've completed that task. There we go. Okay, now hence show that d upon dx sin x cos x, sin x tan x into 1 minus cos x can be written. Now notice that this is the exact same thing that we just proved can be written as 1 plus sec x. Now, we're not going to differentiate this. No. We're not going to differentiate this. Don't waste your time differentiating this. Okay? Hence means that we have to use the answer to the previous part, right? Now, what did we learn in the previous part? In the previous part, we learned that sin x tan x over 1 minus cos x can actually be written as 1 plus sec x. Okay? हमने ये सीखा ना? कि this can be written as 1 plus sec x. Okay. Now, can we differentiate this? Can we differentiate this? Yes or no? Yes, we can. ठीक है, हम इसको differentiate कर सकते हैं. कैसे differentiate करेंगे? Let's have a look. So sec x को हम कैसे differentiate करेंगे? Instead of differentiating sec x, how about we write this as 1 upon cos x? ठीक है, or I'll give you one better. I'll give you one better than that. Okay. So instead of differentiating sec x, how about we write sec x as 1 plus cos to the power minus 1x? क्या ख्याल है? Good idea, bad idea? What do you guys think? Isn't sec x equals to 1 upon cos x? And can't cos x be written as cos to the power minus 1x? Same thing, right? So can we not differentiate this? Bad idea? Really? Come on here. It's a good idea, no? I mean, just because it's my idea doesn't mean that you have to say yes, but still not a bad idea. No, we can differentiate. We can't integrate it, but we can differentiate it. Okay, so minus 1 gets multiplied. We take 1 away from the power. Okay, so minus 1 becomes minus 2. Okay. And then what do we multiply it with? We multiply it with the differential of the angle. The differential of the trigonometric function. And what's the differential of the trigonometric function? The differential of cos is basically equal to minus sign. Okay. So I repeat. Minus 1 gets multiplied. So we have minus cos. We take 1 away from the power. So we have minus 1 cos minus 2x. Then we multiplied by the differential of the trigonometric function, which is equal to minus sine, and then we also multiplied by the differential of the angle, which is equal to 1, but it's really not going to make a difference. And yes, you can go ahead and use quotient rule as well if you want to do that. Okay? Now minus minus first of all become positive, and now we are looking at sine x upon cos square x. Again, tan x basically means sine x upon cos x into 1 upon cos x. Okay, so this will give you an idea as to how you need to write down the left hand side. So now we have an idea, okay, what we need to do with the left hand side. So we're going to write it as sine x upon cos x into 1 upon cos x. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है that you're not allowed to touch the right hand side. A lot of people, I don't know, make it sound the right hand side as if it's some sacred cow, okay, you're not going to touch it no matter what happens. No, you can expand the right hand side, just don't make it part of your official working. Simple as that. So sine x upon cos x is equals to tan x into 1 upon cos x, which is equal to sec x, and that's it. Tan x sec x. Hence shown. Shown है prove है. Hence shown. ठीक है. Okay. How to memorize trig values? I've made a video on it. It's not that difficult. I made a video on it and it's actually very simple. Anyway, solve the following simultaneous equations. All right, so first of all, we will use chain rule. We'll use the quotient law. Okay, quotient law nahi, kya keh raha hu main? The conversion law, and we will rewrite this as x plus y equals to 3 square, which basically means x plus y equals to 9. So can we not just use the known differentiation d upon dx sec x equals to sec x tan x? देखो, sec x tan x हमारे syllabus में तो नहीं है. It's not something that's part of our syllabus, and you're not supposed to memorize it. And because it's a question worth 2 marks, so you have to show the working. ठीक है, मैं आपको इसकी marking scheme दिखाऊं? The marking scheme says show sufficient detail. So I'm afraid if you write down the final answer, you will not get full marks. Okay. This is the marking scheme. It says must show sufficient detail. If you just give the final answer, don't expect full marks. Okay? Okay, now. Then, as far as the next function is concerned, for the next function, we will first use the power rule, make the 2 the power of the argument. So we have log x plus 1, the whole thing square, base 3, equals to log base 3, y plus 2. Okay, so log base 3 and log base 3, they take out each other. Okay, and now we have x plus 1, the whole thing square, equals y plus 2. This is your second equation. Okay. So we don't multiply by the derivative of the trig function only if the power of the function is 1. Yep, that is correct. That is correct. Okay, now let's make x the subject. And if I make x the subject, we will have 9 minus y. Now let's make y the subject. Let's make y the subject. Y is equals to 9 minus x. Okay. So we have x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals to 9 minus x plus 2. Okay, let's just check as we go along. Remember the 3-2-1 rule. 3 lines of working. Pause for 2 seconds. Review your work once. X plus 1 the whole thing square. Y equals to 9 minus x. So 9 minus x plus 2. Looks good to me so far. So we have x squared minus 2x plus x. That's equal to plus 3x. 9 plus 2 is 11. 1 minus 11 is equals to minus 10 equals to 0. Okay. Now let's do middle term breaking. So we have x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 10 equals to 0. अच्छा, अब ज़रा मैं थोड़ी वर्किंग की डंडी मार रहा हूँ. x equals to minus 5 and x equals to 2. ठीक है, टाइम बचाने के चक्कर में. So x plus 5 minus 2 कॉमन निकाला. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब which value makes the most sense? Can we go with both the values? No, we can't go with minus 5, because if I go with minus 5, then log x plus 1 base 3 becomes negative. Okay, so this is this value is not acceptable. So the only acceptable value is 2. And what's y equals to? Y is equals to 9 minus x. So that means y is equals to 9 minus 2, which is equal to 7. In the end, just write your answer in one place for good measure. X equals to 2, y equals to 7. Okay. Okay, question number 7. When y cube is plotted against ln x, now notice that this is linear transformation. This is basically linear law, coordinate geometry. इसको हम linear transformation of data भी बोलते हैं. Why not -5 से हमारा argument negative हो जाएगा. If I take -5 plus 1 will be -4. We can't have -4 as the argument. How do we know if you need to give one value or two? Better we use our common sense. Okay, a log function is defined only when the argument is positive. So which value keeps the argument positive? -5. If I plug in -5 over here, so -5 plus 1 क्या होगा? -4 होगा. We know that for a log function to be defined, we have to make sure that the argument is positive, the base is positive, and at the same time the base is not equal to 1. Okay, rules of logs. Got to sit down and review the rules of logs. Sir, I doom solved this question and I took x equals to -5. How much will I lose? Give yourself one less mark than the final one. Yeah, accuracy का 1 mark चला जाएगा आपका. Yeah, of course marks are deducted if you write both answers. बेटा नहीं तो आपको क्या आप क्या expect करोगे? Examiner आपको कोई special appreciation करेगा अगर आप दोनों answer लिखोगे? Of course not. Both answers means that you haven't solved it correctly. You've given an incorrect answer. So that means you're wrong. So obviously expect marks to be deducted. Alright, so when y cube is plotted against ln x, a straight line graph is obtained. The straight line passes through the points 1, 5 and 6, 15. Alhamdulillah. So y equals to mx plus c is where the story starts. Now this means that this is what we have on the y-axis, and this means this is what we have on the x-axis. So we're going to replace y with y cube. We're going to replace x with ln x and then the plus c as it is. Okay? Now let's find out the gradient. So 15 minus 5 over 6 minus 1. So 15 minus 5 is 10. 10 upon 5. No wait. 10 upon 5 is equal to 2. Okay? ऐसे है ना? 2 ही होगा ना? हाँ, सही. Okay, also keep your eyes on the prize. You're supposed to find y in terms of x. So that means y cube equals 2 ln x plus c. Acha, what is going on over here? So what do you think? Will they retake A-level space? I don't know, beta. I don't work for Cambridge. I don't know. So let's plug in 1, 5. Now, please bear in mind that these are not x and y values, so ln x and y cube. Okay, so these are basically not x and y values, they're basically ln x and y cube values. Why? Because after y cube and ln x is plotted, then these are the points through which the graph passes. Okay? So a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that this is x and this is y, and for example, they will plug in 1 in place of x and they'll plug in 5 in place of y. That's incorrect. Okay? So basically, this is a straight line where you have ln x on the x-axis and you have y cube on the y-axis. So that means every point on this line, whether it's upward sloping, it's going to be upward sloping. Okay, so the coordinates of any point on this line will look like ln x, comma, y cube. Okay, so ये एक बहुत common error है. Sometimes students know, but they still end up making this error because they're doom solving. They're not paying attention to the context of the question. And sometimes they're just unaware of the concept. So 5 equals to 2 times 1 plus c, that means c is equals to 3. So this means that y cube is equals to 2 ln x plus 3. And that's it. That's the answer, correct? Y cube is equals to 2 ln x plus 3. ठीक हो गया? Sir, ये mock थोड़ा difficult था या मुझे लगा? I think more or less the difficulty level was the same. Hey sir, are you doing a stream for integration after this? Yep, I am doing a stream on integration after this, don't worry. This is wrong, you can't leave it over here. The question deliberately says find y in terms of x. So that means this is not the final answer, and if you do leave it over here, expect marks to be deducted. The question said find y in terms of x, so you will not stop till you've made y the subject. So y is equals to cube root of 2 ln x plus 3. ठीक हो गया? Given that y is greater than -1, find the corresponding values of x. Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay, now part B. Part B says, given that y is greater than -1, find the corresponding values of x. All right. So if y is greater than -1, that means k cube root of 2 ln x plus 3, okay, this is what y was, right, is now greater than -1. Now how do we get rid of the cube root? We get rid of the cube root by taking the cube on both sides. So we're going to take the cube on both sides. Okay. So when we do take the cube on both sides, we get 2 ln x plus 3. Now what is the cube of -1? The cube of -1 is also -1. Okay. So we have 2 ln x is greater than -1 minus 3, that's equal to -4, which means that we have ln x to be greater than -2. Now we can only write the answer in exact form, and that will be that x is greater than e power -2. There you go. Can you please explain number 7b? So beta, that's what I'm doing. Okay. Explain 5b. I've already done that, beta. Okay, I've already done that in a lot of detail, so you can watch that part of the stream again. Okay. Okay, now let's have a look at question number 8. Kinematics. देखो कल या तो हम kinematics कर सकते हैं, या हम वो कर सकते हैं, functions कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, functions हम एक round आज कर रहे हैं. Let's see if we need another round. We will do it tomorrow also. Sir, can we write 1 as 1 upon e square? Yeah, of course, you can write it as 1 upon e square also. That's perfectly all right. ठीक है, so. Or you can write it as, but just write 1. ठीक है, don't write both. ये नहीं कि मैं examiner को impress करने के लिए कोई 4 किस्मों में आंसर लिख देता हूँ. No, just write 1. Okay. All right. Now, the polynomial p of x, where a and b are integers, has a factor of x minus 2. Given that p of 1 equals to -2 p of 0, find the value of 1. Okay, p of 1 basically means 6 plus a plus b plus 2. ठीक है, equals to -2 p of 0 means -2 times 0 0 0 plus 2. ठीक है, तो इससे हमारी एक इक्वेशन बन जाएगी. क्या इक्वेशन बनेगी? लेट्स हैव अ लुक. सो वी हैव, let me see, a plus b plus 8 equals to -4, which means a plus b equals to -12. Okay, so this is one equation. So notice the question says a and b are integers. It has a factor of x minus 2. That means when I plug in x minus 2, I should get 0. So 6 times 2 cubed, that means 6 times 8. We'll simplify this in the next step. A times 2 squared, that means a times 4 plus b times 2, that's 2b plus 2 equals to 0. So this means 4a plus 2b equals to 48. 48 plus 2, what's that equal to? That's equal to 50. Take 50 across the equals to sign, it becomes -50. So you have 2a plus b, which is equal to -25. That's your second equation. Okay. So let's write both the equations under each other and then subtract so that b gets eliminated. A plus b equals -12. Okay. Now, if I subtract the two, What happens next? 2a minus a is equals to a. B minus b gets eliminated, not by coincidence, but by design. Minus 25 minus minus 12, what's that going to be equal to? That's going to be equal to 13 with a minus sign. And what about b? So a plus b is equals to minus 12. A plus b equals to minus 12. So that means minus 13 plus b equals to minus 12, which means b is equals to 1. Okay? So a equals to minus 13 and b is equals to 1. These are your answers. Okay? Achha guys, just give me 2 minutes. I'll be back on my desk. Okay, so using the values of a and b, which are minus 13 and 1, find the remainder when p of x is divided by 2x minus 1. Okay, so since we only want to find out the remainder, that means we're just going to plug in the value of x, and the value of x equals to 1 upon 2. So what does the polynomial now look like with the values of a and b found? The polynomial now looks like, yeah, I'll upload the solved PDF, guys, don't worry. ठीक है, सॉल्व PDF आपको मिल जाएगा, कोई टेंशन की बात नहीं है. So 6x cube minus 13x square plus bx, so that means plus x plus 2. ठीक है? Okay, so let's plug in half. So half cubed is 1 upon 8. All right. Then let's plug in minus 13 into half also. No, into 1 upon 4 actually. I see? Yeah. And then plus 1 upon 2 plus 2. 1 upon 2 plus 2. Okay, let's double check. Yep, that is correct. Okay, so 6 upon 8 is 3 upon 4. 3 upon 4 minus 13 upon 4. Okay. And what is half plus 2? That's equal to 5 upon 2. Okay. So 3 minus 13, that's minus 10 upon 4. Minus 10 upon 4 plus 5 upon 2. So minus 10 upon 4 is actually minus 5 upon 2. So answer 0. Minus 5 upon 2 plus 5 upon 2 equals to 0. So that means the answer is 0. So this is the remainder. Okay, that's pretty cool. इसका मतलब 2 factor में मिल गया. Okay, now अच्छा, अब अगर हमें 2 फैक्टर मिल ही गए तो हमें एक फैक्टर ढूंढना है, ठीक है। अच्छा, अब एक फैक्टर ढूंढने के लिए हमें काम करते हैं, लेट्स फर्स्ट एक्सपैंड x minus 2 which is the first factor, okay, multiplied with 2x minus 1, ठीक है, and whatever we get as a result we will then do long division, ठीक है। सो इसको हम एक्सपैंड करके फिर हम लॉन्ग डिवीजन कर लेंगे, ठीक है। तो हमारा एक जो रिमेनिंग फैक्टर होगा ना वो भी मिल जाएगा। सो दिस बिकम्स 2x square minus x minus 4x plus 2. So this becomes 2x square. You can do comparison also. That's perfectly all right. So 2x square minus 5x plus 2. Okay, let's just double check. Remember the 3 to 1 rule, 3 lines of working. Pause for 2 seconds, review it once. So 2x square minus x minus 4x plus 2 minus x minus 4x, that's equal to minus 5x, ठीक है। अब हम लॉन्ग डिवीजन कैसे करते हैं? Now let's divide the polynomial with this, ठीक है। उससे ये होगा that the quotient will straight away be the missing factor, okay। Now you can do the following also. You can just take any one factor and divide the polynomial by that, and then you can further factorize it, okay, you can do that also. Or you can first expand the two factors, get a quadratic equation, and then divide the cubic polynomial by the quadratic equation, okay. So can we use long division to get the remainder? Yes, we can, but if you just want the remainder, there's no point in using long division. Achha, we can't do synthetic division over here, not because it's not allowed, but because synthetic division is only applicable if you have to solve it, okay. It's only applicable if you have to solve it. Achha, ab those of you who are saying ke third factor by observation, you can do that, but I wouldn't risk it. It's completely legitimate. You can write down the third factor by observation, ठीक है, but I don't recommend it. If you're feeling too confident and you can do it by observation, you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it, ठीक है। I wouldn't take that risk, ठीक है। The stakes are high. I don't want to, क्या हो गया अगर थोड़ी extra working कर ली यार, थोड़ी extra working कर ली, at least if you're 100% sure that your answer is correct, then there's nothing to worry about. So what should I multiply 2x square with in order to bring it equal to 6x cube? The answer is 3x. So this now becomes 6x cube minus 15x square plus 6x. What do we do at this point? We subtract. Why do we subtract? So that the first term can be eliminated. So 6x cube gets eliminated, not by coincidence, but by design. So minus 13 minus minus 15 becomes positive 2x square. X minus 6x becomes minus 5x, and then the plus 2 as it is. Now what do I need to multiply 2x square with in order to turn it into 2x square? The answer is 1. So you have 2x square minus 5x plus 2. Now when we subtract, what happens? The remainder is equal to 0. Okay, and now we have the 3 complete factors, that is x minus 2 into 2x minus 1 into 3x plus 1. There we go. Okay, so this is what the factorized version of p of x looks like. Find the equation of the tangent to the curve at the point where x equals to 1. Give your answer in the form of y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so let's find dy by dx first of all. So dy by dx equals to 3x square minus 12x plus 3. Okay. So is it okay to stick to long division to solve the question because time is not left and I do not know? Yeah, that's okay. I said that earlier also, that if you are not familiar with synthetic division, now is not the time to experiment and learn new methods. You can stick to the methods that you know. Okay, so we have 3x square minus 12x plus 3. What happens when you plug in 1? You get 3 minus 12 plus 3. So what's that equal to? That's equal to 6 minus 12. That's equal to minus 6. Are we supposed to find out the equation of tangent? Yes. Now we have the x coordinate. We need the y coordinate also. So if I plug in 1, I get 1 minus 6, that's minus 5. Minus 5 plus 3, that's equal to minus 2. Minus 2 plus 10, that's equal to 8. So that means the y coordinate is equal to 8. So y minus 8 equals to 6, x minus 1. Now you can normally leave it in this form, but here the question has a specific requirement. So we're going to fulfill that. 6x minus 6 plus 8, so y is equals to 6x. Oh, wait a minute. I think I've done something wrong. Minus 6. Whoops, sorry. It's minus 6. Yeah, so minus 6x plus 6 plus 8. So y equals to minus 6x plus 14. Y equals to minus 6x plus 14. There we go. Okay. Observation rule is basically that you look at the two factors and observe the cubic polynomial and see what you need to multiply it with in order to get the complete cubic equation. Okay, मैं बता देता हूँ आप लोगों को. I'll explain to you what it means. If it clicks, stick to it. If it doesn't, then it's not worth the risk. ठीक है. So मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि ये ऑब्जर्वेशन रूल जो है ना, ये कौन है फसाद जिसने ऑब्जर्वेशन रूल का नाम लिया? Who is that? Hey, I'll explain what the observation rule is. वैसे this space is also not enough. Okay, now. So what are the two factors? X minus 2. ठीक है. Into 2x minus 1. And now you know that you need to multiply it with another linear factor. And in the end, what do you want? You want 6x cube. 6x cube plus ax square. What is a? A is 13. Minus 13x square. अच्छा अभी भी जगह कम है, थोड़ा और ज़रा इसको लेफ्ट पे स्क्वीज करते हैं. Minus 13x square plus bx, and what is b? b is 1, so plus x plus 2. ठीक है. Okay, now pay close attention. So what do you suggest a should be equal to? Considering that the coefficient of x cube in the polynomial is equal to what? Is equals to 6. Okay, so that means 2ax square, 2ax cube, sorry. 2ax cube is technically equal to 6x cube. Okay, so how will I get x cube? I'll get x cube by multiplying these three terms. Okay. So x times 2x is 2x square. 2x square times ax is 2ax cube. And what's that equal to? That's equal to 6x cube. Why? Because that's what the coefficient of x cube is on the right hand side. So we can cross out the x cube and a is equals to what? A is equals to 3. ठीक है. अब constant कैसे मिलेगा? Constant मिलेगा by multiplying all the constants. So if you multiply minus 2 with minus 1 and then with b, what do you end up with? You actually end up with 2b. I say this is not a bad method. It's not a bad method. अच्छा method है यार. I like it. So what's b equal to? What's 2b is equals to? 2b is equals to 2, because that's what the constant is on the right hand side. So 2b is equals to 2 and b is equals to 1. So I take my words back. Thank you for mentioning this. And it's a good method. I like it. ठीक है. So good method. किसने mention किया था ये? मैं credit दे दूँ उसको. Who mentioned it? Please let me know who mentioned it so I can give you your due credits. Sir, for a 20 marker, this is not a 20 marker, beta. This is a 2 marker. It's not a 20 marker. I think you probably meant to say, sir, what have we decided for tomorrow? Tomorrow we're just gonna chill. Yeah, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna chill. We'll do a syllabus run through, and along with that, we can do another topic. I don't know. Let's figure out which one. Okay, so I guess me. What do you mean you guess? I guess the काम नहीं चलेगा. खैर, चलें आगे चलते हैं. Let's not waste time. Find the coordinates of the point where this tangent meets the curve again. Okay. For where this okay, I've done both the methods. Now you guys can stick to whichever method you like. Okay, that's the beauty about AdMaths. There are multiple methods which you can use. So tell me, do you guys have your exam in AM tomorrow or in PM tomorrow? Do you guys have your exam in AM or PM tomorrow? Find the coordinates of the point where this tangent meets the curve again. So that means we're looking at minus 6x plus 14 equals to x cubed minus 6x squared AM. Okay, so that means we have to wrap things up. We'll have to wrap things up early. So the cubic equation that we end up with is x cubed minus 6x squared minus 3x plus 6x plus 3x plus 6x, that's equal to plus 9x, and then minus 4 equals to 0. Okay. So let's find out the first factor. The first factor, let's try 1. Acha, 1 se hi kaam ho gaya. That's nice. So x equals to 1 means that 1 cube minus 6 plus 9 minus 4, and that's 0 equals to 0. 10 minus 10, so 0 equals to 0. So that means x minus 1 is a factor. And we already knew that x minus 1 is a factor. Okay? Obviously, we knew that x minus 1 is a factor because this is given in the question. Yeah. So I was just doom solving, not paying attention to the context of the question. So we don't really have to do this. Okay, so we already know that one point of intersection is x equals to 1. That means x minus 1 is a factor. Okay? So that's not exactly news for us. It's already given in the question. So let's divide this polynomial by x minus 1 and see what we get. So we're dividing x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x minus 4 with x minus 1. So we first multiplied by x squared. So we have x cubed minus x squared. Now if we subtract, let's see what happens. So x cubed and x cubed, that gets eliminated. Minus 6x squared minus x squared, that becomes minus 5x squared. Okay. Plus 9x as it is, minus 4 as it is. So what do we need to multiply this with? We need to multiply this by minus 5x. So this becomes minus 5x squared plus 5x. Now when we subtract, the minus 5x squared gets eliminated, not by coincidence, but by design. 9x minus 5x, that's equal to 4x minus 4 as it is. So we multiply this by 4, we get 4x minus 4. What's that equal to? That's equal to 0. So that means all that's left for us to do now is to further factorize x squared minus 5x plus 4, which leads to the conclusion that it's x squared minus 4x. Synthetic division is allowed. Synthetic division is allowed. Okay? Plus 4 equals to 0. अच्छा, इसको further solve करेंगे तो हमारे पास आएगा x equals to 4, and if we solve it further, we will get x equals to positive 1. Yeah. Because we'll take x common, we have x minus 4, then we'll take minus 1 common, and then once again we have x minus 4. Okay. Now, that means 1 is basically a repeating point. Okay. Or since it's tangent, obviously we will get one value of x twice because the line is tangent to the curve. Achha, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to find the coordinates. That means we're supposed to find out the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Now the only new coordinate for us is x equals to 4, so that's the one that we're interested in. And using this, we will find out the y coordinate. So remember, the equation of tangent was y equals to minus 6x plus 14. Y equals to minus 6x plus 14. That means y is equals to minus 24 plus 14. That's equal to minus 10. So that means the coordinates where the line meets the curve again is 4 comma minus 10. Okay? देखो, doom solving is a term that I've coined. You know, जैसे doom scrolling होती है ना? Doom scrolling में you're just scrolling without really paying attention to what you're watching. ठीक है, बस आप scroll किए जा रहे हो, dopamine hit पे dopamine hit लिए जा रहे हो. इसी तरह से I've come up with a term known as doom solving. ठीक है, doom solving is basically that you're solving a question without really paying attention to the context of it. Okay, so for example, you're finding out the gradient of an upward sloping line, okay, and your answer turns out to be negative. Now technically, we know that an upward sloping line should not have a negative gradient, okay, but we don't even realize that we have done something wrong because we're not really paying attention to the context of the question. Okay, so that's doom solving. Okay, doom solving, similar to doom scrolling. अच्छा, फिर एक और चीज़ है ego solving. You guys know what ego solving is? Another term that I've coined this year. You guys know what that is? Ego solving. क्या है ego solving? कितने लोगों को पता है ego solving क्या है? ego solving is, no, not emotions is solving. It's skipping steps. Like for example, 7.85 minus 0.25. ठीक है. अब आप कहें कि यार ये तो बहुत आसान है. I don't really need to do any steps and I'm just going to write the answer as 7.5. ठीक है. Now this is not doom solving, this is ego solving. ठीक है. Why? Because you did not think that it's necessary. You do not think, you think that you're too smart to be able to do this formally. Okay, so that's why you don't do any working, and as a result you end up getting it wrong. Okay, just say, if you guys go to the gym, you would know what ego lifting is, right? Ego lifting is when you try to lift weight more than what you're actually capable of. Okay, so this is ego solving. Okay, so ego solving, doom solving, these are two terms that you all need to be familiar with. Okay, find the exact value. Exact value means that if it's in terms of ln, we will leave it in terms of ln. If it is in terms of e, we will leave it in terms of e. Okay, so first let's expand. So this becomes x square plus 2x plus 1 upon x square. Okay, now let's write each term of the numerator separately with the denominator. So x square plus 2x upon x square plus 1 upon x square. Okay. Now this becomes 1, this becomes 2 upon x, and this I will write as x power minus 2 so that it's easy for me to integrate. Okay. Sir, do you have time? Yeah, of course. One thing I never leave is the gym. Okay, no matter how hectic the schedule gets, that's important. Taking care of your health is very important. So when you integrate 1, you get x. When you integrate 2 upon x, it becomes 2 ln x. Okay? So basically, you can add an extra layer of working. You can write this as 2 into 1 upon x. Okay? Plus integral of x power minus 2. Okay? So integral of 1 is x. This becomes 2 ln x. And here you add 1 to the power, so that means minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1. You divide by the new power, this is what you get. So look at the amount of space, there's plenty of space. So you have x plus 2 ln x minus 1 upon x. ठीक हो गया? Okay. So I'm confused that in MS, when we get answer, they don't round it off. That's because it's exact. When you get an exact answer and the values stop after a while, that means that's it. That's the exact value. So you don't round those off. Okay. So now let's plug in 4. So we have 4 plus 2 ln 4. That's the minus 1 upon 4. So that's with the upper limit plugged in. Now let's plug in 2 and put a minus sign in between. So we have 2 plus 2 ln 2 minus 1 upon 2. So that's with the lower limit plugged in. Okay. Now, so we have 4 plus, let's write this as ln 4 square, which means ln 16, minus 1 upon 4. Then this becomes minus 2. Then this will now become ln 4 because I'm going to write it as 2 squared. And then minus minus becomes plus, which then becomes 1 upon 2. Okay. Okay. So let's simplify this step by step. 4 minus 2, that's 2. And minus 1 upon 4 plus 2, that's plus 1 upon 4. So that means 2 plus 1 upon 4. Okay, we'll simplify this in the next step. Plus ln 16 minus ln 4 basically means that log with same bases are being subtracted, which means that arguments can be divided. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing. Now 2 plus 1 upon 4 is equals to 9 upon 4, and ln 16 upon 4 is equals to ln 4. So 9 upon 4 plus ln 4, that's the answer. So we can't add 1 to the power of x plus 1 squared, then for x squared add 1, so it won't be ln. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, because you have आपका denominator separate है, numerator separate है. You can't do that. Okay, now question number 11. In the diagram, OP is equals to 2B and OS is equals to 3A, SR equals to B and PQ is equals to A. All right. Find OQ in terms of A and B. So OQ, let's pick a nice root which takes us from O to Q. That's going to be 2B plus A. So 2B plus A. Find QS in terms of A and B. So let's pick a nice root which takes us from Q to S. So that's going to be minus A minus 2B plus 3A. So minus A minus 2B plus 3A. So sorry, minus A minus 2B. So this becomes minus 2B plus 2A, which I would prefer to write as 2A minus 2B. There we go. Yes, angles in degrees are to be rounded off correct to one decimal place. Okay, but you don't have to worry about any of this on Monday because Monday is a non-calculated paper. Given that Qx is equals to mu times of Qs, find Ox in terms of A, B and mu. Achha, if I want to find out Ox, that means I have to incorporate Qx so that mu times Qs gets incorporated so that my answer is in terms of A, B and mu. So that means I will find Ox and I will deliberately add Qx in my root. Okay, I will find Ox, but I will deliberately add Qx in my root. Okay. So Ox, let's pick a nice root that takes us from O to X and that has Qx along the way. So we can go from O to Q, then from Q to X. Kya khayal hai? So we can go from O to Q, which we've already worked out in the previous step, and then from Q to X, which we know is equals to mu times Qs. So OQ is equals to 2B plus A. We've worked it out in the first part. Okay. And then Qx is equals to mu times of Qs. And what is Qs? Qs we've also worked out in the first part. That's 2a minus 2b. Now, we don't have a lot of space to simplify it, so we're just going to leave it over here. That we're going to do in part E. Okay? Now, given that Ox is equals to lambda times OR, once again, we have to find Ox and we have to deliberately add... Achha, wait, Ox is already equal to lambda times OR. ठीक है, फिर तो कोई टेंशन की बात नहीं है. We're just going to write Ox as lambda times OR. Now what is OR? Let's pick a nice root that takes us from O to R. So we can't take this root. We can take this root, which is 3a plus b. Okay. So that's 3a plus b. Will P3 get cancelled? But I don't know. But you guys should not stay quiet. The whole exam was leaked before the paper, way before the paper. So make sure you make enough noise for Cambridge and British Council of your country, because it was not held in Pakistan. So obviously students and teachers in Pakistan don't really, it doesn't make sense for them to complain. But wherever it took place and whoever got hold of the leaked paper should make a lot of noise for them to acknowledge that it was leaked. Okay, and then what happens after that? Let's see. At least get a statement out of them that they know, okay, they're investigating or something like that. You have to do that. Involve media outlets of your country. I made a video on this. I talked about it multiple times. I don't have to repeat. Okay. Okay. So 3a lambda plus b lambda. Now, if I take a common, so we have a को अगर हम common ले लें, तो wait a minute. Let's write this as 3 lambda a plus lambda b. That's better. Yeah. So 2b plus a plus 2a mu minus 2b mu. Okay. Now, let's take mu common. Let's take a common. So if I take a common, we have 1 plus 2 mu. Okay. And it's not meow, it's mu. Acha, I'm ignoring you. No. What stream do we have day after tomorrow and day after that? But day after that is Monday, so I'm not going to stream anything on Monday. Okay. So we'll take a break and then we will start streaming for P2. Tomorrow I'll be doing a syllabus run through. Along with that, I don't know. I don't know what I'll be doing along with that. Acha. Then we have 2 minus 2 mu as the coefficient of P. ठीक हो गया? Okay. So 3 lambda is equals to 1 plus 2 mu. That's one equation. And then lambda is equals to 2 minus 2 mu. That's another equation. Okay. Acha, how long? I don't know. Just wait till tomorrow and find out. Okay. मुझे नहीं पता होता कौन सी stream कितनी लंबी होगी, so I can't really say anything. So tune in tomorrow to find out. Alright. So 6 minus 6 mu equals to 1 plus 2 mu. which leads to the conclusion that mu is equals to 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 upon 8. Okay. Acha. And then lambda is equals to 2 minus 5 times 2 is 10, so 10 upon 8. 10 upon 8 means 5 upon 4, so that means 8. 8 minus 5, that's 3. 3 upon 4. So lambda is equals to 3 upon 4. Okay. I don't know. I can't tell you approx. I can't tell you exact. Tune in tomorrow to find out. Okay. Can I do it in the morning? Can I do it in the morning? It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Dekhte hain. Let me see. Circle C1 has equation so and so. The point A lies on the circumference of the circle and has coordinates 2, 0. Find the equation of the tangent to the circle at A. Okay. Now, first of all, let's write the equation of the circle nicely. So we have x square minus 2x. Okay. Let's leave a little bit of space. Then plus y square plus 6y. Okay. And then let's leave a bit of space and then write equals to 0. Okay, so that we can bring it in completed square form. So we'll have to do a plus 1 square on the left, so plus 1 square on the right. We'll have to do a plus 3 square on the left, so plus 3 square on the right. So this now becomes x minus 1 the whole thing squared plus y plus 3 the whole thing squared equals to 3 square, that's 9. 9 plus 1 is equals to 10. So that means the coordinates of the center are 1, minus 3. Now the question is, why did I bother to find out the coordinates of the center? Why did I bother to find out the coordinates of the center? Okay. So the reason why I bothered to find out the coordinates of the center is so that I can get a better understanding of the question. Okay. I've noticed that the coordinates of the center are 1, minus 3. Okay, 1, minus 3. And we're supposed to find out the equation of tangent to the circle at A, and A has coordinates 2, 0. That means it's going to be slightly towards the right, and since it's 0, that means it's actually going to be above somewhere. So 2, 0 will probably be somewhere over here. And we are supposed to find out the equation of this red line. Okay, this is basically the line that is tangent to the circle. Okay, now you can see that this is a downward sloping line. That means it should give me a negative gradient. Okay, so let's find out the gradient of the radius. So gradient of the radius will be 0 minus 3, that's equal to 3. 3 over 2 minus 1, that's equal to 1. Okay? Which means that the gradient of tangent will be equal to minus 1 upon 3. Now we need a point through which the line is passing, that's 2, 0. Okay? So that means y minus 0 equals to minus 1 upon 3 into x minus 2. That's it. The question does not specify that you need to write it a certain way, so you don't have to do that. You can just leave it as it is. Okay? So that you can take the gradient and perpendicular. Yep, that is correct. Okay. Now, the circle C1 is reflected in the tangent at A to form the circle C2. Find the equation of C2. Acha. If I reflect it, what happens? What will change and what will not change? What will not change is the radius. What will change is the center. Okay, so if I reflect this circle along this line and make another circle, okay, let's change the color of the circle to green. So about this green circle, what will change is the center. Okay, will be the coordinates of the center. What will not change will be the radius. Okay, now how will I find out the coordinates of the center? Let's call the center of the circle C2. So the point on the tangent will be the midpoint. Okay, so C2 ke center ke kya coordinates hain? We don't know. But we do know that if I take the midpoint of the two centers, that is x plus 1 upon 2. So the x coordinate of the midpoint will be equal to 2. So that means the x coordinate of the center is equals to 2. Then if I find out the midpoint using the y coordinate, so y minus 3 upon 2 will be equal to 0. That means the y coordinate of the center will also be equal to 3. Okay? Now, as far as the radius is concerned, the radius remains the same. So it's x minus 3 the whole thing squared. Why? Because when you reflect, the shape and size remains the same. Plus y minus 3 the whole thing square equals to r square, and r is equals to 10. Okay? There we go. Okay. Now, question number 13 and the last one. What time will I start integration? I think around 6 start kar lete hain. Sir, I wrote the coordinates of the center wrong in the first part, but solved both parts correctly, so will my answer be credited? I wrote the coordinates. You will lose 1 mark. 5 marks kind of, so give yourself give yourself, yeah, 1 less mark. That's correct. Yunus. Sir, how is this 5 marks? I'll tell you how is this 5 marks. Good question. So, radius gives you, wait a minute. Okay, so finding the coordinates of the center give you 1 mark each. Okay, so that means this altogether gives you 2 marks. Okay. Acha, then the final equation gives you 1 mark. अच्छा और इसने radius का 2 marks दिए हैं. M1 for attempting to find the radius of C1 may be seen in part A, but अच्छा oh okay ठीक है, because हमने radius, okay, so because we've already found the radius here, okay, because we've already found out the radius over here, क्योंकि हम उसके marks वो use कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. अब वो हमसे एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा है कि हम यहाँ पे रेडियस ना निकालें, which you don't have to, you can directly find out the coordinates of the center, ठीक है. So the examiner is expecting us to not find out the radius over here, but it still has mentioned, ठीक है, it still has mentioned. So yeah, finding out the radius gives you 2 marks. So 2 marks, 2 marks, then the final equation 1 mark. That's 5 marks, ठीक है. Okay, now it is given that 2 plus cos theta is equals to x and 2 cosec theta equals to 5 for y is greater than 2. Find y in terms of x. Okay, so now we need a connection. We need a connection between cos and cosec. Okay, what can we do? We need a connection between cos and cosec. Acha, cosec is 1 upon sine, cos is cos. Okay, so I have an idea. Cos theta is equals to x minus 2, okay, and cosec theta is equals to y upon 2, correct? Cosec theta is actually 1 upon sine theta, so 1 upon sine theta is equals to y upon 2, which basically means that sine theta is equals to 2 upon y. If you take the reciprocal on the left, you take the reciprocal on the right. Now, what is one equation which connects cos and sine? One equation which connects cos and sine is that cos square theta plus sine square theta equals to 1. So that means cos square theta, that's x minus 2, the whole thing squared, do not expand because you're only supposed to find y in terms of x, plus sine square theta, which means 2 upon y square, 2 upon y, the whole thing squared, equals to 1. Okay? So what we end up with is this. We end up with x minus 2, the whole thing square, minus 1 equals to 2 upon y, the whole thing square. Since we are supposed to find y in terms of x, so how about we take the square root on both sides, which when you do, you get plus minus, but notice that here the question says y is greater than 2, so we will only take the positive square root. So this means that you now have 2 upon y, which is equal to square root of x minus 2, the whole thing square, minus 1, which means y is equals to, okay, if you swap places, so y is equals to 2 upon square root of x minus 2, the whole thing square, minus 1. There we go. Okay. Now, if you do expand it, that's perfectly all right, but it's just total waste of time because the question doesn't specify how you're supposed to give your answer. And that's it. We are now done with this question. Is there any universal rule for doing these type of questions? Always look for something that connects the two. You have two separate equations, right? Look for something that connects the two. So we have cos and sine. What is it that connects the two? It's sine square x plus cos square x equals to 1. No, we're not going to have one more mock paper. ठीक है, बहुत हो गई mocks. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have a stream where we will do kinematics, maybe functions. Achha, right now we have another stream starting at 6 where we will do another round of integration, okay, and then another stream where we will do functions, okay. So we have multiple back-to-back streams inshallah today. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a few minutes I guess. ठीक है, मैं ज़रा stream का time देख लूँ. अच्छा, we're supposed to start at 5:30, so let's start it at 6 inshallah. Okay, so at 6 we'll have integration, and at 8 inshallah we will have functions. ठीक है. So I'll stop here. See you guys inshallah shortly. So take care everyone. Allah Hafiz.